You're tuned in to Counter Shot, where I talk boxing and other things that are related. Anything fighting and anything that's pertinent to the conversation concerning current events that I deem relevant. This is the first broadcast, so it's going to be raw. Just want to get down to it. This is on the topic of Terence Bud Crawford, who, in my estimation and many others, is possibly pound for pound the best boxer in the world right now. If you don't know, he's suing Bob Arum, his ex-promoter, for racial discrimination. Something that I've been saying should happen for a long time. A lot of these boxers are not getting what they deserve, and sometimes the only way to get what you gotta get is to go through the court system. And although that might not work for us all of the time, some of the time it does. At the very least, he's bringing attention to a very big problem. And it seems like he doesn't have any kind of support from the boxing community. Keep in mind, the boxing community is constantly complaining about things that are going on politically in boxing. However, when it comes to these matters, most people just go silent when it's time to stand up because they're fearful of losing money, position, or what have you. So Terence Bud Crawford gets a big shout out because he's the one that has the backbone, or the balls, if you will, to stand up and fight for what needs to be fought for. So I'm going to give him his praises right here, right now. It seems that people like Muhammad Ali's daughter, George Foreman, and a few others have taken a different approach to Bob Arum. Probably should be Bob Evans. At any rate, they're in support of Bob Arum, which makes no sense, particularly since they have no dog in this fight. But what I want to comment on is one of those who is having a bit of a memory problem, and that's going to be in George Foreman. George Foreman apparently has unknowingly decided that he actually does side with Terence Bud Crawford. And I'm just going to show you right here and right now, why George is actually on board with Terence Crawford. So I got a few receipts, and we're just going to get down and get dirty real quick with this. So, as I said, Bud Crawford right now is undefeated, but you wouldn't know it because Bob Arum at every turn has decided to talk about how much money the man has lost him, as opposed to promoting him as the great fighter he is. That said, others have said that this man's not a racist. I'm not going to comment on that. Yes, I am. He seems to be a racist. But anyway, George Foreman has made some pretty substantial remarks in this matter, and I'm just going to get some things straight right now. Now, George Foreman was a great champion back in his day. I mean, in the 70s and maybe going into the 80s. I can't recall. It's been a while. But George Foreman was a great champion. He had a record of, he only had one loss in his first career, and that was to Muhammad Ali. He came back 10 years later and began a new career at the age of 40. And so, that said, George Foreman has taken a stand against Terence Crawford. And as I said, in his heyday, he was a big, mean knockout genius. But during his second career, he was unfortunately a little bit buck broken. I'm just going to say a little bit buck broken, because when you are a big, strong fighter that everyone's afraid of in your heyday, they don't like you, and they didn't like George Foreman too much. He came back as a soft guy, the nice guy, the hamburger eating heavyweight. But I'll let George show you. Here you go. Here's the George Foreman they want you to forget about right here. This is the George Foreman they want you to forget about. Okay? A man that just put people on their behinds. And this is the George that they want you to remember right here. The 40-year-old who made a nice comeback. This is the guy right here that they want you to remember. This is the George they want you to remember. All right. But again, this is the George that was the killer. Okay? All right. Now, I do have to make it clear that, fair use is fair use. I'm just going to be doing some of this and showing some of these pictures, and listen to a little bit of audio for commentary, criticism, news reporting, research, teaching, etc. So again, fair use, and let's let George Foreman tell you what's really going on. All right, so if you listen to George Foreman now, he's the older guy, and he's softened up a bit, and he doesn't want to rock the boat. However, when we'll go back with a Floyd Mayweather fight, we're going to have to use him a lot, because this is where these men who don't like certain fighters too much really show their true colors. It's usually against Floyd Mayweather. However, George Foreman, and I will give him his credit, he often would try to get the backs of these fighters when they were being talked about by savages such as Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley. So at 9 minutes and 18 seconds on this one particular clip, we're going to listen to a little exchange. Okay, now this is in regard to Bob Arum to some degree. Okay, but more importantly, it's just about the boxing world in general as it is. Listen closely.
And here comes Pretty Boy Floyd, and you see the sterling record in title fights. But George Foreman, as one of the sport's biggest stars, I must ask you, you are Floyd Mayweather Jr., you're on the top 6 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and you're fighting in Fresno. Should you learn something from that?
Well, first of all, Fresno has got a wonderful turnout tonight, but Vegas is where everybody want to be, and there's something wrong somewhere. I blame it on the promoters and the managers, not the fighter. All they're supposed to do is get in the ring and kick it. The rest is up to selling it.
All right.
Did you hear that? George said it's not up to the fighters, and Terence Crawford has a big problem with being promoted by his promoter. And if Bob Arum doesn't want to promote him and talks about how much money he's losing, that's not promotion at all. So, in a court of law, you already have a conflict. Someone is honoring their part of the contract and another person is not. In this case, Bob Arum is not. Not only is he not holding up his end of the contract, he's actually going against his fighter. He's destroying his fighter. He's coming. He's taking a stand against his own fighter, if you will. So, what's the use of a promoter? Now that was George Foreman. He's in agreement with Terence Crawford. Does anyone have a problem with that? I do not. You heard it from the horse's mouth. It's not up to the fighter. There's a problem there somewhere else, and it's with the promoters. It's the promoter's job to do that, not the fighter. He's just supposed to get in there and, get it on, basically. Now, I want you to listen again here. This is, by the way, this is Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Victoriano Sosa. This is the footage from that. Okay, I'm letting you listen. I'm not going to show it. Don't want to get in any trouble. Again, fair use. This is just short time frames. Okay. Now listen to this closely. Still, Floyd Mayweather versus Sosa. Listen closely.
Bob Arum standing above us and smiling as Mayweather charts another win. The on-again, off-again promoter-fighter relationship there will be good if Mayweather won. Let's go to Michael Buffer for the...
All right. So, Lampley talking about the on-again, off-again relationship between Floyd Mayweather and Bob Arum. Okay? So, there you have that. Now, we also have another example of this whole situation with Bob Arum and his particular fighter from way back, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And again, I want you to listen closely to George Foreman's view on things. Well, let's see. Let me pull it up. Give me a moment. What we're going to do is go to round 3 of we're going to go to round 3 of that Sosa fight. Round 3 of the Sosa fight. So you can hear some of George Foreman's commentary once again. Listen closely.
Beads of blood, but it might be sweat.
Listen to George.
Mayweather's popping with that left jab there as he moves around. Good jab in boxing. Good fighter. This guy has been promoted in the same fashion he's been knocked around by certain people. He really gets some recognition.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? He talked about how good a boxer this guy is. And if he had been promoted the same way he's been knocked around by certain guys, then, he'd be able to get somewhere. Why don't we listen to that one more time? Just to make sure that I'm not hearing things. Let's listen to that one more time. From George Foreman himself, because remember, George is in agreement with Terence Crawford. He just forgot.
Beads of blood, but it might be sweat.
Mayweather's popping with that left jab there as he moves around. Good jab in boxing. Good fighter. This guy has been promoted in the same fashion he's been knocked around by certain people. He really gets some recognition.
Now a flurry for Sosa.
And there it is. So, starting to get a little bit of an understanding of what's really going on, aren't we? Now, Floyd Mayweather, and I don't want this to sound like a Floyd Mayweather post, because it's not. It's about Terence Crawford. But sometimes you have to dig into the past to get some answers. And that's what I'm doing here. See, because George forgot where he really stands. You know? He forgot. When he's commentating a fight, he tends to tell the truth 90% of the time. He's a good commentator. I like George in that way, but he's a little afraid right now. And, he's not speaking up the way he should be. So this is a reminder that, yes, Terence Crawford has the support of George Foreman. George just doesn't know it. He forgot. All right. We're going to go to a different situation, okay? Again, this is about Bob Arum. I'm tying in Floyd Mayweather because when you have people going against someone, as some of these people are, sometimes you have to get it where you can get it. Now, Bob Arum is the key here. Remember that. Now we're going to go to Mayweather versus Luis Castillo, fight 1, and listen to some things here, so you can see just how tough it is for black fighters to deal with these promoters in this really dirty game of boxing. And I can call it dirty because, well, I've got some experience, and I've seen it firsthand. I know what I'm talking about. But it's no secret. Everybody should know. Listen closely. Listen closely.
So, George, are you suggesting, very quickly, are you saying there's merit in Mayweather's argument about Arum that he hasn't done enough?
It's not about Arum, it's about promoters in general. You take on the opportunity to promote a guy, it's up to you to make his name a household name, not the fighter at all. He's trusting you with that.
All right.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? In case you didn't, I'm going to run it back one more time, okay? I'm going to run it back one more time.
His way around the ring.
Listen closely.
So, George, are you suggesting, very quickly, are you saying there's merit in Mayweather's argument about Arum that he hasn't done enough?
It's not about Arum, it's about promoters in general. You take on the opportunity to promote a guy, it's up to you to make his name a household name, not the fighter at all. He's trusting you with that.
All right. To see if...
Now, Jim Lampley didn't like that. That's the George we knew right there. That's the guy. Now, if there's any question as to what George Foreman really thinks about Terence Crawford suing Bob Arum, and I know he said Bob Arum is not a racist, but he doesn't really have a dog in that fight. He doesn't know what Terence Crawford's been going through, but then maybe he does. Terence Crawford, again, suing Bob Arum for racial discrimination and basically holding back his career. I think he's looking for around $10 million. We'll have to see. The big thing is that somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it. And that's Bob Arum. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. What George Foreman is saying now and what George Foreman has been saying otherwise. So here's Here's my take on it. If a man feels the need to sue someone based on his personal circumstances, and you don't have a dog in that fight, maybe sometimes you should just sit off to the side, particularly when you know that that there really are problems. I like George, but I feel like he should have sat this one out. What do you think? Leave your comments. That's going to be it for this one. Peace.